Good morning, distinguished guests and Garrett Morgan campus family. I am Quenton Davis, proud principal of Garrett Morgan School of Engineering and Innovation. We also have Mr. Anshawn Ivery, who is the principal of Garrett Morgan School of Leadership and Innovation. We lead this wonderful building that we often call the Garrett Morgan campus. It is our distinct pleasure to welcome you all today as we gather to celebrate the remarkable achievements and enduring legacy of Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan was a true visionary whose inventions and contributions have left an indelible mark on society and contributions around the world. Perhaps best known for inventing the modern traffic signal, Morgan's inventions revolutionized transportation safety and paved the way for the modern traffic management system. He was also the inventor of the gas mask, a device that has saved countless lives in times of crisis, including during World War I, when it was used to protect soldiers from poisonous gases on the battlefield. In addition to his inventions, Morgan was a trailblazer in the business world, becoming one of the first African American entrepreneurs to achieve significant success. He founded his own company, the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company, which marketed hair care products to African American communities. Morgan's life is one of perseverance and innovation. Despite facing discrimination and adversity, he never wavered in his pursuit of excellence and his desire to make the world a safer and better place for all. So it's no surprise that this proclamation is well deserved. We thank you for joining Garrett Morgan's family by honoring the extraordinary life and achievements of Garrett Morgan. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Davis, and good morning, everybody. I am glad to see you. I want to first say to the students, the ambassadors, thank you for having us to your school, to your campus. If you would, I think most of you here that are seated in the middle and back rows are our students. Can you raise a hand if you're a student here at the Garrett Morgan campus? Let's give it up for our students. Thank you. And for the ambassadors who warmly welcomed us on the way in, thank you for the work you do. I want to, as your county executive, first say to you, this is an important day, and we'll talk a little bit about the why, but most importantly are the fact that the students are here. And I want to thank the CMSD for being a partner to us always. I'm going to quickly say, before I talk about persons to my left, I want to just quickly acknowledge my colleagues from council. By the way, I'm Chris Ronayne. I'm your Cuyahoga County executive, and I'm glad to be with you. I serve you. I work for you. You are my bosses. So good to be with you today, students and faculty, teachers here at the school and campus. Want to just give a shout out to Councilwoman Meredith Turner, who represents our 9th district here in the Cuyahoga County Council. Thank you. Naila Bird, who's our clerk of courts and also has a relation here at the school. Ed, somewhere out there, who's in the leadership team. But Naila, thanks for being here. Sabrina Roberts, who directs our community engagement here. Thank you. Ron O'Leary with our Board of Revisions and also a resident in the neighborhood. Thank you. Brendan Doyle, who's my special counsel and also a resident in the neighborhood. Thank you. And Kelly and the entire media team that are here. Thank you guys for being here. I also see our senior transportation advisor out there, Annie Pease. So we are well represented, but I wanted to say to particularly Sandra Morgan, it's an honor to be with you again. I'm going to talk about the why in a minute, but Sandra Morgan is the granddaughter of Garrett Morgan, and her family has kept the story of their grandfather alive, and she's done a wonderful job, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. It's always good to be with you. I've known you a long time, and more than ever, it's just important to celebrate the work of Garrett Morgan. I want to once again thank Quenton Davis, principal of the Garrett Morgan School of Engineering and Innovation. Thank you for having us. And also Principal Anshawn Ivery, Garrett Morgan School of Leadership and Innovation. Give your principals a round of applause, please. Thank you. And finally, from the district offices, Chief External Affairs Officer, you're going to hear from in a minute, Lisa Farmer-Cole. All right, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate greatly that innovation is in the schools within this campus. That's what you are. You're growing as students, as innovators. And we have a leader to look to. We have a leader to look up to in the man whose name is on your very school and campus, Garrett Morgan. He was a passionate innovator, and as was said already by your principal, Quenton Davis, he is a modern day innovator that has been responsible for so many different products, including the modern traffic signal and also the safety hood gas mask that was referenced. Garrett Morgan, we're coming up on the 147th birthday of Mr. Morgan. He was born in 1877, and I'm going to get to why I'm here and why our team is here as we go. But I want to just tell you a bit of the story and the play-by-play, and then I'm going to ask Sandra Morgan to give you the family commentary from a family's perspective. But as you've heard, and I know some of you have read his books that are out here today. What a beautiful room we are in, by the way. Thank you, CMSD, for the work you do to educate our students every day. But I think Mr. Morgan would be proud of what we've got in front of our students here, innovators at work here at the school. Well, he was born in Kentucky and he moved to Cleveland in 1895. He was a visionary entrepreneur whose inventions have greatly enhanced public safety, transportation, and quality of life for countless individuals for more than a century. He was inspired as an inventor to see how he could continue to make things better, to make products in our lives work better. He came in from his earliest days in Kentucky and moved to Cleveland, and he was interested and had worked as a younger man as in the sewing industry, and ended up working on fixing sewing machines such that he and his wife here in Cleveland opened a garment store. And I think they employed several Clevelanders early on in his life. He went on to do many other things, but that was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, and that was his inspiration in New York to improve upon products that had not been good enough, and he improved upon them to make life better. But he went on to do other things, and the thing that's right outside these windows is an important marker about his heroicism. He had worked on a product that we knew then as a safety hood and a modern day gas mask. He got a call one night, he and his brother, to respond to an incident because it was known among the safety providers that there was a man in our community who had a product that could help tunnel miners that were just beneath the lake right out here, as you see right outside your own windows. And you've heard some of the story before, but tunnel miners who were trapped below the bedrock underneath Lake Erie, and they couldn't get them out, and they needed his assistance. And so Garrett Morgan and his brother got a call late at night, and he brought his safety hoods for the rescue workers, and he and his brother are seen in pictures carrying men out of the mines, literally saving lives. So there are people back when that owe their very lives to Garrett Morgan. I think we can never thank him enough for the work he did. But his story was a twist and turn of a story, particularly for an African-American gentleman in the early 20th century who was a businessman, a pioneer, but he suffered from the perils of racism. He had a product that was ultimately sold by white business owners into World War I, and it was a product that went on to save many more lives in World War I. But because he was an African-American gentleman, he had trouble actually selling that product into the industry. So he had people syndicating it for him. But the brain behind the product was Garrett Morgan, the innovator behind the design of a safety mask that helped World War I infantrymen in war was Garrett Morgan. Again, a hero amongst us. And he didn't get enough press for what he did here out in the tunnel mines of Lake Erie because, again, he was suffering the perils of racism. They didn't tell the story about an African-American pioneer who did the work, who not only saved lives literally by he and his brother lending a hand and carrying bodies out so that they could be saved, but he was the one who actually did the work on the product that saved the rescuers' lives too. That's why we stand here today. That's why we stand here more than a century later to honor a man who probably did not get his just dues in his day. But he did go on with perseverance to do so many other things. He got active in this community, and he started an organization that became the organization that merged into what we know today as the NAACP, the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, as it was known. It was an organization that was there to help African Americans in their trajectory, and it's still with us today, a century later. That was Garrett Morgan. He bought into a media company here in Cleveland where he saw the need for African American voices and writers to be better known. That became an organization called the Call and Post that is with us today, more than a century later. His prints are still on our modern day society here. And so I gave you all those stories before we talk about the traffic signal, because we have a man who was a pioneer, who was an innovator, and who found a way to break through despite the forces against him, the forces of racism in this community and in our country. He found a path. So we stand on his shoulders. We stand on his shoulders as somebody who literally blazed a trail. And I want to talk now for a minute about the modern traffic signal. We were delighted to join Sandra Morgan in Washington, D.C., as the U.S. Department of Transportation in November honored our own Garrett Morgan. He was honored by Secretary Buttigieg and his team out of President Biden's White House. They honored the man that has saved lives with a modern three-way traffic signal. The red, the yellow, green light, as we know today, was early on a different device that was founded by Garrett back in 1923. It was the tri-position traffic signal. And again, at the time, you think about it this way, students, it offered the early idea of a yellow light. Slow down, you have actually a light about to change. So today there's 300,000 traffic signals throughout the United States that have arguably saved tens of thousands of lives, maybe more, out there in America, because Garrett Morgan literally gave order to traffic engineering. This is who has saved so many lives years and decades after he passed on. And that's why we honor him today. His legacy continues to be celebrated across Cuyahoga County with the buildings and services throughout the community that we're finally giving namesake to, like the Garrett Morgan Water Treatment Plant across the street and the Garrett Morgan Schools of Engineering and Innovation right here. So I want to say to you, it's fitting as a county executive working with my county council and our members of our administration and the council to actually in this administration dedicate the very first day of dedication for a county individual who served us so well that it will be on March 4th, officially Cuyahoga County's Garrett Morgan Day. March 4th is his birthday, and let's give him a round of applause. We honor him, yes, this month in February, Black History Month, but every day and every month we honor Garrett Morgan. We will honor him on his birthday, March 4th. Tomorrow marks the day when he actually applied for the patent that he received a year later in November the following year for that traffic signal. This is a man who never took no for an answer. He persevered through adversity to get things done for the betterment of all in generations to come. That's why Cuyahoga County designates on his birthday coming up this March 4th, Garrett Morgan Day in Cuyahoga County. And we will give official proclamation to that end to two persons. One, to his granddaughter, and two, I should say persons in the plural, all of you, to hang at the school that Garrett Morgan Day has been dedicated March 4th. And again, it's the first of its kind for us in Cuyahoga County because he was truly a first among innovators. So let's give it up one more time for Garrett Morgan. I'm going to give this to your principal, and I'm going to introduce Sandra Morgan, a living legend herself as granddaughter of Garrett Morgan. Thank you both.
Now, Chris, what do I have to say? Well, on behalf of the Morgan family, I'd like to thank all of you for coming here today. Join us in celebrating Garrett Morgan Day, which will officially be on March 4th, next Monday. I'd like to thank personally the principals and administrators of this school, all of our distinguished guests that are here joining us, and all of the students, a number of whom I recognize from the last time that I spoke about my grandfather at the Rotary Club earlier this month. I'm really pleased to have, as I told you before, my family members, my new family members, my little nieces and nephews from the Garrett Morgan School here, who are giving me a little bit of courage and strength to be up here and speak to you today. I'm really pleased to be here and delighted, really honored, humbled, and delighted to be here to celebrate my grandfather. You know, Chris mentioned, well, everything essentially about my grandfather and his life here in Cleveland, his professional life. His personal journey was also really very complicated at times, right? I mean, he came from Kentucky. He came from an area where he didn't think there was going to be a lot of opportunity for him. He came here in the late 19th century or 18th, 19th century. And there was precious little for him to do in Kentucky. He knew that he had a gift, a special gift of intellect. He was determined to use his head and not his hands when he made his way in this world. And so he came to Cincinnati, didn't find Cincinnati to be much different than Kentucky, in all honesty. And so he came to Cleveland. Why Cleveland? Why not Chicago or New York or some other place? Because Cleveland was a center of innovation and technology at the time. As you all have already heard, Cleveland was really an exciting place to be. You know, the Edison was here. You know, Rockefeller was here. J.P. Morgan was here because there was so much to invest in. Companies were springing up all over the place. Jephthah Wade. I mean, invention was rife in this area. There was a lot of brain power here. There was a lot of excitement in Northeast Ohio. Maybe he was naive, but he thought that he could be a part of that and wanted to be a part of that, wanted to be a part of the innovative ecosystem of Northeast Ohio. And that's what drew him here. Now, was it an easy road? Not at all. He says to us that when he first got here in Cleveland, you know, he hitched a ride on a train and he didn't pay for his ride. So, you know, he was in one of those cars, you know, kind of hiding out and riding with, you know, bales of hay and goats and whatever else were in the car. And when he got here, he didn't have any place to live. And so he literally slept in the train car under newspapers for 3 days until he could get his bearing here in the city of Cleveland and find a place to live, a place to shower, well, wash, and a place to get something to eat. But once he did that, he understood that the sky was the limit for him. He could do anything. And I'll remind you all what my grandfather, even in the face of significant adversity, had to say. Does anyone remember? You can either go over an issue, you can go around it, or you can go under it, or ultimately you may have to go through it. But either way, you have to get where you're going. And he absolutely did that throughout his life. He saw himself more as really a businessman and an entrepreneur and a problem solver more than he was an inventor. His inventions were a direct result of him thinking through a problem, seeing a solution, and then, quite honestly, being smart enough to know that he should patent it and that it could be monetized in some way, or even if it wasn't monetized, that he would have the recognition for everything that he did. And that was important for any number of reasons. Number one, it helped to substantiate his self-worth. You know, he knew his worth. And I encourage you all to recognize, to dig deep and think of your own self-worth, right? You know, I mean, he knew who he was. He looked in the mirror every day and knew what he had to offer. And he brought it every single day, sometimes by happenstance, sometimes by design, but he worked very hard to be the man that he was. And so all of his accomplishments, whether it was the traffic signal, the gas mask, the Garrett Morgan hair refinery, the call-in post, He ran for city council, believe it or not. In the 1930s, he bought a bunch of property with the funds that he got from the traffic signal when General Electric bought his patent. And he established a small country club out in Wakeman, Ohio, specifically for African Americans and people of color. Why, you ask? Because at the time, we were primarily living in areas that were highly industrialized. They weren't very nice. They weren't green. We all recognize the importance of green space now. And people were getting sick every time there was some sort of a pandemic. We were the first ones to get it because we were in tight quarters and bad air. And so he created a place, and we think of country clubs now as being exclusive, but really it was a place where African Americans could come out an hour and a half away from town, enjoy the sunshine, fresh air, go hiking, go hunting, go fishing. There was a place to play cards and to dance and to have food and just to enjoy themselves in cabins, of course, and relax. It was a wonderful place to be. Our family still has a good deal of this land and we still enjoy it. In the same ways, it's an opportunity to relax, to escape the pressures of the city and to enjoy ourselves, and more importantly, to think and to be creative and for fellowship. So, I mean, there was a lot that he did and he thought about when he wasn't being busy as an entrepreneur and as an inventor, the man that we think of and we see today. He cared deeply about his family. He cared deeply about his community. And he wanted to contribute in every way that he could. And I think that he did a yeoman's job. I couldn't be any prouder to be a Morgan. You all are Morgans too. I want you never to forget it. I've told you that. Don't forget it. You carry a heavy name and you've got to respect that, right? Be a Morgan. Represent yourself as a Morgan at all times. And I mean it. If I see you out, all right? At any rate, I want to once again thank you all for coming here and being with us today, for being here with me in particular, in honoring our family and our family legacy. I celebrate my grandfather's birthday again in Washington, D.C. On Monday, where Her Majesty's Ambassador, Dame Karen Pierce, will host an event at the British Embassy in celebration of 100 years of the tri-position traffic signal and 100 years of innovation, entitled From the Old Guard to the Vanguard, where General Motors is the proud sponsor of our activity on Monday. And there will be representatives from the automotive and transportation industry from around the country and literally around the world to celebrate my grandfather's legacy, and also, to honor the traffic signal, which was also patented, by the way, in the UK and in Canada. So I'm delighted that he is getting all of this. He's getting his flowers now, and I'm really delighted by that, and extremely proud. Once again, I thank you.
Thank you for sharing your family story, Sandra Morgan, and for keeping the story alive with all of us. And I agree, he's getting his, you said his flowers, but it's happening now. He's in a moment 147 years later from his birth. So last, to close out, we're going to introduce Lisa Farmer Cole, your Chief External Affairs Officer from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. And I want to ask the students, before you get away, if afterwards you'll join us for a photo, because this is your day. How cool to have Garrett Morgan, the name of your school. Such a pioneer, such a hero, a man who saved lives. And every day you see him in action as you're at an intersection, perhaps just crossing the street. So we want you up here when all's said and done. But Lisa, you're going to close us out. Thank you.
Well, I know I stand in between the students and their photo op with so many important people, so I will keep my remarks brief, but just want to bring greetings on behalf of our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Warren Morgan, and the Board of Education. I want to thank everybody again for being here for this very momentous celebration of Garrett Morgan and of Black History Month here in Cuyahoga County. Thank you to County Executive Chris Ronayne and his team, many of who I know very well. You have a phenomenal team all the way back to 7th grade. So it just feels full circle that we can all be here celebrating, again, this momentous occasion. I thank you for choosing the site of Garrett Morgan High School. It is very appropriate, but more importantly, I just want to thank you for acknowledging the contributions, heroism, as you said, and activism of Garrett Morgan. To give him his credit today, because we all are aware, we've heard from the county executive and his granddaughter, Miss Morgan, that he did not receive the credit just because of the color of his skin. But County Executive Ronayne, it's a testament to your leadership that you made this a priority to honor one of our most notable African American inventors and making March 4th Garrett Morgan Day. So thank you for that. Of course, thank you to Sandra Morgan, his granddaughter. We are honored by your presence and are so grateful for your grandfather's work, his legacy, and your family's history here in Cleveland. And you said we are all Morgans. So my great-great-grandmother is a Morgan. So I hope I'm a part of that you gave to the children today, that we all need to continue to go out and represent accordingly. And I cannot leave without saying thank you to Principals Quenton Davis and Anshawn Ivery, not only for hosting us here today, but for all of the work they do day in and day out for the scholars in this building. Together with their teachers and staff, partners and families, they make the Garrett Morgan campus a great place to learn. And I am reminded of this campus being such a great place to learn by looking out and seeing all of the students and acknowledging your contributions that you make daily to continue the legacy of Garrett Morgan. And you heard it from Miss Morgan. She gave you a charge that you represent not only this school, but that you always acknowledge and know your self-worth. And as we wrap up Black History Month, I'm thinking about something our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Morgan, has stated often since he's been here, that Black history is not something confined to 1 month, nor should it only be celebrated in 1 month. As we see in the legacy of Garrett Morgan and so many others, Black history is Cleveland history, Cuyahoga County history, Ohio history, and American history. And it gives us so much to celebrate and be proud of every day. Thank you once again and have a phenomenal day.
Well said, Lisa. I want to also just quickly, since so many of them came over, our county fellows and our county staff, who just give a raise of a hand, and also those in the front row here. A lot of them came over to acknowledge, because we look forward on March 4th next week to honoring you, all of our Morgans, under the name Garrett Morgan on March 4th, which is officially now Garrett Morgan Day. So can we have all the Morgans and our some of our county team come on up? We'll take a picture here, and I'll let our AV and media team do the rest. Come on up.